Finally, the video many of you have been waiting for: how to improve performance in Stable Diffusion with an AMD GPU using use-zluda. use-zluda is significantly faster. It's 8 times faster on my machine than the DirectML fork of Automatic 1111. Don't believe me? Check this out. On the left you have Stable Diffusion with DirectML, and on the right use-zluda. As you can see, use-zluda finishes before I even said all this stuff. So DirectML is way slower. There's some caveats though. It doesn't work with all the models. Here's the list of the models that I've used with check marks for the ones that work and the ones who don't. Now, shekel time. If you're one of those people who would rather pay for everything and you're like, I can't be bothered, I just want you to connect to my computer and install everything directly, there's an option. I can also troubleshoot the errors that you're having. I can Google really hard what type of solutions could be had for that type of situation. It isn't cheap, but it's an option. So if you want it, it's available. Now, without further ado, here are the steps you need to follow to install use-zluda on your machine. Prerequisites is to install Python and Git. There's a list here, but basically if they let you choose, you need to select always to add whatever you're installing, in this case Git and Python, to path, and the same in this step. So step 3 for both. I'll add a link in the description to these prerequisites, but before you get started, Git and Python need to be installed in a specific version, I think, of Python. Here it's linking to 3.10.11. For DirectML, I think it was 3.10.3, but check my last video. I mentioned the exact version that is needed there. And then for use-zluda, here's a guide. So first you need to check that your GPU is compatible. And you have a compatible list here, which you have here for AMD. For example, my card is a 7800 XT, so it's covered. And you gotta check if it's here. So for example, anything after a Radeon 6600 and up is supported in the runtime, but not in the HIP SDK. So for that, there's going to be an extra step. So if you have 6800 or above, it's supported in HIP SDK. And if not, you're going to have to do an extra step. And I think if you have maybe like a RX 500, I'm not sure if that's even supported here. So just beware that RDNA 3, so all the 7X whatever are supported all in runtime, but only 6800 and up in the HIP SDK. Now, first thing you install is the Visual C++ runtime, which is right here. Most people most likely have it already on their system, but just check. If you try to install it and it gives you an option to repair or uninstall, then you already have it, so you can close it in, and that's it. And next you need to install this HIP SDK, which we talked about before, which is the ROC-M from AMD. So this is what we opened before, and this is the HIP SDK. So for Windows 10 and 11, you have the latest version, which is 5.7.1. So you go ahead, download this, install it. And then you need to add folders to path. You need to follow the steps, which is go to the start button, type env, and then click on edit system environment variables. Click on the environment variable button, and then check to see if this HIP path is there. If it's not, you create a new one with the value this. Check if this is the path in your system. It most likely is, but just in case it's not, program files and not program file 64 or something like that. And if you have it in another location, you need to put it in the location that you installed it to, and it looks like this. And then you add this to your path. Here's a link that explains how to do that. It's working when you open an Explorer window, so the file system, and then you write on the address bar, you write this, and then it should load up this folder. So again, what we said before about the list of GPUs, if your GPU has a check in both columns, you can skip to the next. If it has an X, then you need to go through this, follow these steps. And there's some alternative here. If you have like 6700 graphics card, there's an optimized ROCm library. If there's a 6600, you have an optimized ROCm libraries as well. You follow the steps. I haven't done this because I have a 7800. So if you do, follow these steps. And next, you're gonna open a command line. So for example, you can open PowerShell from the start menu. You just write PowerShell or CMD. You open a window, and if Git is installed, if you type Git, press enter, some message should show up, meaning that Git is installed. You can go to the folder where you want to install this. You can, if you've never used a command line tool, it's gonna say at the beginning the folder you're in. Let's say, for example, the C drive / documents and settings / your username. Let's say you're there, or C / and then you write this, and it's gonna create a folder called automatic, which will have all the code that you need. Then you're gonna do CD, change directory, so enter it, and then you're gonna run this. And this should already install. Before, people had to install use-zluda manually, but with this, it's supposed to install it and add it to path. I think it's mentioned here, like it's auto installed and automatically added to path when starting webui.bat with use-zluda. So there's that. And yeah, I think that it will take a while. The first time you generate anything with Zluda will take a long time. Maybe it might take 15, 20 minutes. I didn't even count. I was just doing something in the background, watching some video, and then eventually I realized, oh, it generated something. And from the consecutive times that you generate stuff, it's super fast. So compared to DirectML, there's not, for example, upscaling. I think it works a little bit better with DirectML, at least in the extra tab. Doing the upscaling is a little bit faster, but generation, for example, text to image, it's much better with Zluda, in my experience. And then, yeah, this is what it mentions about the compilation and the first generation, that it would take a long time. So people report even more than an hour, but eventually it just needs to be done once, and then you're done. And there's not going to be a progress bar, so just leave it in the background, and it should be fine. Another good thing about like Zluda, for example, here you have a comparison. Zluda is faster and it uses way less RAM. Like, for example, with DirectML, I was doing some tests, and my graphics card has 16 gigabytes, and it was using 15.9, 15.8. So it almost hogs, whatever you do, all of the VRAM memory. So it's quite easy to get the message like, hey, there's not enough memory. But with Zluda, it's about 5 to 6 gigabytes on my card. So in that sense, I think it's much better. Just a quick mention, if you run into any errors, just Google it. It's gonna be fine. I don't know all the errors. I don't know how to fix them. Also, just try it. Just try it. Like, don't ask me in the comments if, hey, I have this specific card, will it work? I don't know. I guess it could, but I don't know. So you try it out.